Let's talk about FC Barcelona. I mean, it's one of the biggest names in sports, right? But to really get what makes them tick, you have to understand one single phrase that captures their entire identity.
Més que un club. It's Catalan for more than a club. You see it everywhere, on the seats at their stadium, Camp Nou. You hear it from fans all over the world. But you know what? This is so much more than just a slick marketing tagline. This phrase, it was literally forged in a history of political struggle, a fight for identity, and a whole lot of resistance.
So what does it really mean today in the 21st century? To get to the heart of that, we actually have to look at just one match, October 1st, 2017. On this day, football was, well, it was anything but just a game.
So picture this. Barcelona is all set to play Las Palmas. And defender Gerard Piqué, a guy who has won the World Cup, a total Catalan legend, he later says this was the hardest game he ever played. Think about that. Harder than a World Cup final? So what on earth was happening?
Well, while the players were getting ready, the streets of Catalonia were exploding. It was the day of the Catalan independence referendum, which the Spanish government had declared illegal. Police were sent in, they were seizing ballot boxes, clashing with voters. It was chaos. And in the middle of all this, the head of La Liga is saying, nope, the game goes on. He even threatened to dock Barca 6 points if they didn't play. Can you imagine the pressure?
So what happened next was just bizarre, totally surreal. The team played the match, but they did it behind closed doors. In an empty Camp Nou, 100,000 empty seats, just silence. And on the field, you have Barca warming up in the colors of the Catalan flag, while the other team, Las Palmas, has a Spanish flag stitched onto their shirts. Even the scoreboard had a picture of a ballot box that said democracy. This was not a football match. It was a political statement. Which really makes you wonder, how in the world did a football club get so tangled up in all of this?
All right, to figure that out, we got to rewind way back to the very beginning.
You know, what's kind of funny is that the club wasn't even exclusively Catalan at the start. The founder, he was Swiss. The first team was a whole mix of Swiss, English, German, and Spanish guys. But then, as Catalonia went through this big cultural awakening, this rebirth, the club made a huge move. They decided to make Catalan their official language. And boom, right there, that decision planted the seed. They became this symbol for Catalan identity way before all the heavy politics really kicked off.
But if that was the seed, then the Spanish Civil War and the dictatorship that came after under General Francisco Franco, well, that was the fire that forged the club's identity into steel.
See, Franco's nationalist regime was all about crushing any regional cultures. The Catalan language, banned. Catalan flags and symbols, forbidden. And they went right after the club. The club president, Joseph Sunyol, was arrested and executed. Their offices were bombed. It was intense. And in that climate of fear, the stadium, Camp Nou, it became something else. It turned into a sanctuary. It was one of the only public places where people could speak Catalan without fear, where they could express who they were.
And this is the era that really locked in that legendary bitter rivalry with Real Madrid. Suddenly, it wasn't just a game anymore. It was basically a proxy war. You had FC Barcelona, the Army of Catalonia, standing for their own unique identity. And then you had Real Madrid, the team from the capital, seen as Franco's team, the Crown's team, representing a unified, centralized Spain.
Okay, so out of all this political fire and pressure, something amazing was born on the pitch. A totally revolutionary way of playing football that would, well, eventually conquer the world.
I'm talking about tiki-taka, of course. That beautiful style of short passing, constant movement, keeping the ball. It's all about skill, brains, and working together as a team. It's like their whole cultural identity was expressed through their style of play. And this style was really perfected by two guys who just got what Barcelona was all about.
First up, the man himself, Johan Cruyff, a Dutch legend. When he had the choice, he famously picked Barcelona over Real Madrid, saying he could never play for a club tied to Franco. That's a huge statement. And as a player, and then later as the manager of that legendary dream team, he didn't just bring trophies. He built the entire blueprint. He created the club's DNA.
And that DNA? It was taken to a whole new level by one of Cruyff's own players, Pep Guardiola. In 2009, Pep's Barca team, wow, they did the impossible. They became the first club in history to win every single major trophy in 1 year, all 6 of them, the sextuple. It was the absolute peak, the ultimate proof that their philosophy worked.
So you have this clear line, right, from Cruyff's revolution to Pep's perfection, and then the era of Lionel Messi. The guy scored a mind-boggling 672 goals for the club. It's just insane. Together, they built this global footballing empire, all on that unique foundation of being more than a club.
And if you want to see that identity on full display, all that history and tension packed into 90 minutes, you watch El Clásico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. This is way more than just a football match. It's a snapshot of Spain's biggest cultural and political fault lines.
And look at how tight it is. In La Liga, after almost 100 years of battling it out, they're separated by just a few wins. That's crazy. It means every single time they play, history is on the line.
This is the game of legends, right? Di Stefano, Ronaldo, Raul. But even among those giants, one player stands alone as the top scorer in El Clásico history. Of course, it's Lionel Messi. 26 goals. I mean, that just shows you how much Barca dominated during his time there.
Okay, so all of that history brings us right back to where we started, to today, and to this big paradox that the club is facing right now.
So here's the thing. Catalonia is a total economic powerhouse. We're talking about a region that produces almost 20% of Spain's entire GDP. That's huge. And that economic power is a massive part of the ongoing political fight over things like taxes and how much control they have.
And the club is caught right in the middle of this. On one hand, Barca is this massive global brand. They have millions of fans everywhere, from Tokyo to Los Angeles. But on the other hand, it is still so fiercely, unapologetically local. Get this, at every single home game, like clockwork, at 17 minutes and 14 seconds into the match, the entire stadium starts chanting for independence. Why 1714? It marks the year 1714, when Barcelona fell during a siege. It's a protest baked into the very fabric of every game.
And that really is the ultimate question, isn't it? Can you be a global brand for millions of people all over the planet, and at the same time be a symbol of freedom for a very specific group of people at home? Or does one identity eventually have to win out? I think that tension, right there, is what it truly means to be more than a club today. Thanks for diving into this with us.